Well, welcome back to another episode of the Chill Film Discussion. We had to move around our schedule a bit just because tomorrow the normal time won't
Smart.
work. But anyway, yeah. Today we discussed a film by the name of Ip Man. It's a 2008 biographical martial arts film, Hong Kong film,
Yeah.
based on the life of the real Ip Man. So it's based on the life of a real person. Um, yes, it follows sort of a grandmaster of Wing Chun, which is a martial arts. He's also the teacher of Bruce Lee, apparently.
Yeah.
According to the end. But yeah, and yeah, it's sort of follows this grandmaster in southern China as before and during the Japanese invasion, China during World War II, and sort of follows like his the circumstances of his life through those various timelines. Um, I find this film to be interesting because he never loses a fight, which I thought was very unique because in a lot of action films regarding fight or just fighting films in general, the protagonist probably, loses a fight,
Yeah.
comes back stronger, ends up winning the climactic fight. But in this case, he never loses, which I think is okay for this film there's because of the circumstances with which what is happening. The film is sort of split into like two different stories: first half and second half. First half being he's defending his southern style martial arts against the northern this northern hooligan guy who's trying to like come in and
Yeah.
show off his moves, but and then in the second half he's defending them basically like China's honor in some sense, with his martial arts. And I think it, because of like his this whole like thematic, like you mentioned Austin earlier, like this thematic significance of like defending, you know, your honor, defending your culture in some sense.
Yeah.
That's the overall thing that ties it all together, and I think that that sort of story and that sort of progression sort of is okay with the fact that like he doesn't actually end up losing the fight because it's not just about the fighting itself. Even though the fighting is really cool, the fighting choreography is really well done. And when props to Donnie Yen for making it look very enjoyable to
Yeah.
watch. But there are some parts of the film that I didn't like. One of which is the side story with a younger brother, which the reason is because he was introduced in the beginning, had a lot of screen time. There was an expectation that like his story would pay off to some degree, but
Yeah.
it just was kind of he was introduced, he ran away, he wasn't seen for up until the last third of the film, and then he had like two scenes where he got reintroduced, and then the his whole arc ended with, you know, it meant telling him that his brother died by the hands of the Japanese, and then he's like, oh gosh, okay, I gotta switch sides. Um, Anyway, yeah, it was the execution of the payoff was not well done in that side, but there was another side story with the enforcer, policeman in the beginning, first half, but then becomes the interpreter in the second half, and his growth from trying to basically, almost like a comedic guy who follows the strongest, doesn't necessarily care where he's from, but like he himself grows to the point where he in his own way he defends um his people.
Right.
So I think that was a very well done side story. I think it makes up for this other side story of a character that was lacking. But yeah, I honestly, yeah, for the most part, a great film. Really enjoyed watching the action. Was a bit surprised that he never lost a fight, but also surprised that apparently this is a series because the way that this film ended, it seemed like it was just going to be a standalone. But yeah, overall, yeah, great great action. Good acting by Donnie Yen,
Yeah.
and yeah, pretty decent storytelling. So
Yeah. I mean, kind of going to parrot you. I mean, I think that this movie is the, uh, you know, it really depends. It really relies on its action scenes, right? That's where it kind of shines, right? And this is what really carries the movie forward, right? The story itself is kind of simple and engaging, right? But it's the action, the movie, the choreography by Sammo Hung, right, which really bring this movie
Mhm.
to be enjoyable to watch it from fight to fight to fight. And as you said, he doesn't lose the fight really at all, right? He's just some powerful character who kind of comes to save the day. The
Mhm.
other losses that we see kind of help build up to where he has to come in to step in to regain that honor, right? We see other fights where they're losing losses by other side or supporting characters, but Ip Man doesn't lose, right? He's the one who's there to he's shown as someone who's masterful, and he's there to regain the dignity and honor of those who have lost it, right? Which makes him a
Mhm.
kind of like a endearing character. It's like, yeah, we want someone to be the champion. He is that champion. He comes in to rescue those that maybe have lost that honor. So
Yeah.
I think the action really is the one that really carries this film, and I enjoy all the fight scenes, even though it's all choreographed. It's just very flashy, very fun to watch. Very it's kind of like the um, it's really it's the essence of like Hong Kong, fight action kung fu movies. Very
Mhm.
enjoyable to watch. And this is about the martial artist, right? So even though it's a dramatized version, it's still very enjoyable to watch. And then in terms of the story, like I do like that it has a thematic connection between the first half and the second half after the chime jump. But it has a bit of a nationalistic tone, but I think it's okay to do it subtly enough where it doesn't really turn you away, and it still gives a good message of like, yeah, this is you're trying to fight for something bigger than yourself. You have to fight for your pride, your dignity, your honor, what is right. And I think they do that well. And then some of the side characters, you touched on the policeman. I did enjoy his character development, his growth. And I also enjoyed the romance with his wife, right? I think the wife's character was somebody who is enjoyable. There's no much too over dramatic portions to their
Mhm.
relationship, and
Mhm.
her kind of at the end where she's kind of saying like, yeah, she wants to be with him and see his last fight. I think that was really nice, that she kind of almost converted in terms of like her view to her viewpoint of martial arts, where she was kind of against it at the beginning.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
so it was a lot of character moments, and I think you're right that probably the weakest story was probably the little brother, where it could have finished, but it really didn't. They really don't go anywhere when it could have, especially with so much screen time in the beginning.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, very enjoyable film. Never really bored watching it. It's always because there's a lot of fight scenes in between to just keep you engaged. And then there's one thing, I think, what really, I wouldn't say it's probably more fault of the character than the writing, but just like how Ip Man is someone who's very prideful, doesn't accept help, especially when he's shown as a family man, sees his family, when his family is suffering, he still isn't willing to, accept gratitude. When
Yeah.
everybody is kind of like, grateful towards him, right? They all recognize him, see him as master, but, always willing to give him help, but he doesn't accept it, which, yeah, it's part of his character, but at the same time, you kind of question, like, why does he not do things, maybe not in a logical manner, but they, I think it's more of probably the fault of the character itself. He's shown to be prideful, so he does these things. Um, but yeah, not really a fault of the writing. Maybe good writing to show that this is how he is. So
Yeah. That's true. Um, I also want to point out that I did like the main villain, the primary antagonist, the general,
yes,
Japanese general. He had the code of honor. He did respect um his opponents, despite
yeah,
the
and then
fact that they were invading
right.
their homeland. So
And yeah, a lot of characters have like shades of gray to them. But Chinese versus fighting Chinese, no one's like really on the good side. Bad well, the Japanese probably were portrayed as villains, but as you said, the Japanese general probably shown in a more sympathetic light than the rest of his army. And then even the
yeah,
Chinese side, you have characters who are robbing the Chinese, the northerner, right? Still beating up people. But
yeah,
and then even the translator, like he sees character growth. First, he's seems an opportunistic kind of weasel, but he becomes selfless and helping Ip Man protect his family. So there's like everyone has a shade of gray uh,
yeah,
to them, which is nice that they have people have be well rounded.
yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I think that's it for today's discussion.
Hmm.
Yeah, we will be back in a couple of weeks.
We didn't do our rating.
Oh, I forgot. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Strauss. Thank you. I forgot to do our rating. Wow. Yes. Final ratings. I will give this film an 8.
An 8.
Yes, very much enjoyed it. With the exception of some of the side stories, the little brother could have been executed a lot better.
Okay.
And yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's my
I,
final.
I would give it an 8.5. Love the action scenes. Very rewatchable. And
Mhm.
I think some story points were a little bit weaker, but still something I would recommend to watch for very, very enjoyable fights, action sequences.
Same. Yep. I would recommend as well, especially if you're looking for a action, um, nice action sequences, good action reaction shots
Oh
of
yeah,
lean fighting.
yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right. Well, okay. I think that concludes this stream. Our next stream will be in a couple of weeks, so we will
Yeah.
be out for the next up until the 23rd, I think, of
I don't
April.
know. It's gonna be a while, right?
So I'm sorry, everyone. No streams. But yeah, we'll be back then with a new movie, and then yeah, that's it for today. Hope
Yeah.
you all have a fantastic day whenever you watch this, if you watch it. So next time.
Yeah. Bye.